Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Business, where I take you behind the scenes of my business and other businesses so that you can learn exactly how to start, grow, and spaciously scale your coaching business in a really sustainable way. Now, today's episode is a really important one because we are going to talk about the economy, uncertainty, and what it means for you as a coach and as a business owner, and more specifically, the biggest mistakes that I am seeing coaches make right now that will hurt their business if they are not careful. And the reason why I am able to see this in advance is because now I have been in business for over 6 years. And if you know what happened 6 years ago at the time of recording this, you will know that we were in a global pandemic. We had COVID. And it was arguably one of the most uncertain times that most of us have ever experienced. And I was able to start my business then, grow it and scale it during that pandemic. And I am seeing a little bit of similar behavior start to appear right now in what is still a very fresh and early stages of, some difficult financial times for people. And so I wanted to get in early as possible, being very well aware that we are in early days, but I did want to address it as quickly as possible just so you don't make any decisions that might harm you and your business. And I wanted to speak from experience, but I did want to make a disclaimer before we get into it because I do think that is very important. And what I want to speak about is that this episode is not about ignoring the very real financial stress that many people are experiencing right now and will very likely start to experience shortly, if not already. There are people who are genuinely struggling, and that is real and that matters. This episode is specifically for coaches and service providers who are trying to grow their business in an uncertain economy and who want to do that in a responsible, sustainable, and grounded way and not from fear. When I talk about targeting people who are willing and able to invest in themselves in this episode, this is not about saying anyone is better or worse than anyone else. It is simply about understanding that a business needs to serve a market that both has a problem and the capacity to pay for that solution. Otherwise, the business itself becomes unstable. So this conversation is about how to continue to grow an online service or coaching-based business in a smart and grounded way during those uncertain times. I really wanted to start by saying that. I also want to acknowledge I am not an expert when it comes to the economy, or I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not deeply educated in what is going on right now. I'm aware, I'm researching, I'm listening, I'm learning from people that I trust and believe in, but it is such early days. And I also think that actually no one knows what's going on. So that's not what today's conversation is about. It's specifically about the industry that I am in and the mistakes that I saw a lot of people make during COVID. And I want to, share that wisdom, that understanding, that experience with you so that if we enter a season that is somewhat similar to that, as the signs are showing, that you are prepared as best as possible. And regardless, I hope it doesn't end up like something like that or worse, but like I said, you don't know. But even if that doesn't happen, this episode is still going to be helpful because the reality is this will not be the first or the last time that uncertainty occurs, that economy changes and goes up and down. Like, that is life. That will continue to happen, and uncertainty comes up for us all in different ways and phases of our life, both personally and then also circumstantially throughout the things that are happening external to us. And so having the mindset that supports you in any uncertain situation, I believe, is only going to be helpful for you today. So that's just like a little disclaimer I wanted to make before we get into it. And now, just before I get into the biggest mistakes that I see and what to do instead, I want to give you a little bit of a life update, something a little bit more positive, just to balance this out a little bit before we dive deep into the nitty-gritty. So we are on, at the time of recording this, the very last day of March, and we have had our biggest month in business to date. Again, this has happened every single month so far this year, and it happened a lot at the end of last year as well. We just keep having our biggest month, and I personally believe it is this combination of a compound effect in business. I think if you just continuously, master what you are doing instead of dabbling. I know I say this pretty much every episode, but that is because it has been my truth, my experience, and the experience of many of my clients. When you truly do that, you actually create really, really incredible results. So that is one reason. And then the other thing is just we are getting better. We are getting smarter. We are playing bigger. We're taking more risks, taking more leaps. I'm owning myself and my decisions and my situation even more, my niche, claiming space in that space. And I believe that that is serving us very, very greatly. So I'm very happy to say that we are actually getting closer to those $200,000 months now, which is really awesome because it really wasn't that long ago that I hit my first $100,000 cash month. I'm talking in Australian dollars, I'm talking cash collected, I'm not talking sales, and I'm not talking profit. Our profit margin is high and it has remained that way, and I'm very proud of the business that I've created and the situation that I'm in. But yeah, I'm talking cash collected in Australian dollars. I always love to just be transparent about what I'm sharing because a lot of people are talking about sales, meaning money that hasn't actually come in yet, but is meant to come in through payment plans. I'm actually talking about cash received. So celebrating that, I also just got back from a 4-day trip in Adelaide, which was awesome to meet up with team and do some work there, but then also to go to my best friend's wedding, which was so lovely. Had the best time. She looked freaking phenomenal. Not that I was expecting anything less. Her house was incredible. The night was incredible. And I'm just feeling so grateful to have been a part of that. And now I'm back home, back in routine, just got back from Pilates. Cleaners are about to come and clean the house. So I'm feeling really good. Nice big reset. And yeah, what an epic quarter. Last day of quarter 1, 2026. That is just wild to me how fast that is going and how big it has been. And I'm really excited for what the rest of this year looks like. I'm going to remain optimistic despite all else. That being said, let's dive in to this episode. So I'm going to be speaking about 5 core mistakes that I really saw happen upon reflection, right? During COVID, and what I'm seeing unfolding now, and my advice as what I would recommend to do instead. So mistake number 1 is during these economy changes, I noticed that people go to lower their prices immediately. They want to lower their prices and they want to do low ticket stuff and create new and different offers. This is a mistake in many cases for so many reasons. One, whether something is low ticket, medium ticket, high ticket, with whatever that looks like for you, whenever you create a brand new offer, there is going to be a lull period in most cases for most people. And this means that it's not going to work instantly necessarily. You pair that with economy changes and challenges, you are setting yourself up for a recipe for disaster in many cases, right? And so when everyone else is going lower ticket, lowering their prices, you should actually remain the same or continue to prioritize high ticket because, if you lower your prices, well, now you're guaranteed to earn less, right? And so you just want to be smart to not drastically change everything due to fear and scarcity. I'm a really big believer that our thoughts create our feelings in our body. And from our feelings, we take certain actions. We either take certain actions or don't take certain actions. And those actions or inactions is what's going to create our results. So yes, our actions create our results, but what causes us to take certain actions is actually our thoughts. It's not the circumstances, because a circumstance is a neutral thing. There is no emotion to it at all. So you could look at the economy that's going on right now. Some people are viewing this as bad and some people are actually viewing it as good based on their opinion and their perspective. Which one is right or wrong? There is no right or wrong. The situation, the circumstance is actually neutral. What is different is the thought. That's why it's not the circumstances that that creates people's results in their life. It is their thoughts. The thoughts create the feelings create the actions, and the actions create the results. So you want to make sure you are making decisions from thoughts that serve you and not from fear and scarcity, because our thoughts will create our results. If you create a decision based on a thought that is coming from a place of fear and scarcity, then funnily enough, that is going to be the outcome that you end up getting. And so we want to make sure that we are making grounded, strategic, and regulated decisions. And we need to have healthy, positive, optimistic thoughts. Yes, educated and aware thoughts. We need to have thoughts that serve us. And often, when I see people lowering their prices, it is coming from a place of scarcity. And when you see everyone do that, instead we want to remain that safe, consistent place that we know where we stand, we know what our offer is worth, we know what our time is worth, we know what the outcome is worth, and we hold to that because we want to make sure that we are targeting an audience that can continue to invest and pay for these services. We do not want to be targeting people that cannot commit to our services. And yes, times are challenging right now and it will continue to happen. And there is a percentage of people that are not affected financially by even, the cost of living increasing and demand for certain things increasing. Yes, everyone is affected to a degree in a different way, but there will be people that are not looking for the cheapest deal just because the economy has shifted. They're not looking for any of those things. They are looking for stability, and they're still looking for the best offer. I'm still investing in myself. I'm still growing my business. I'm still increasing my expenses every month. And there's plenty of other people out there, aka our ideal clients, because an ideal client is someone that has the money to pay us, that are doing the same. So we just want to be aware of that. So that is what I have to say about that, is we don't want to be lowering our prices and suddenly playing small based on assumptions. A lot of people assume things. They assume, everyone's struggling, no one can pay, no one will pay, and they exaggerate, and that causes them to make reactive decisions. And I'll tell you where assumptions go wrong. I'll give you 2 examples. I'll give you a personal example that I experience frequently, and then I'll give you an example based on an Instagram reel that I saw yesterday. So I don't know who this is, so I can't even give credit. I was just like doom scrolling and came across it and thought it was such a fascinating opinion that I agree with. And that is, for example, let's just say someone has a $70,000 car. It is very common that people will assume, that person has money. They're well off because they have this beautiful $70,000 car. Meanwhile, what may be the case is that they're actually on a payment plan, potentially living week to week on it, or month to month, or that, they prioritize the car and, what things look like externally for themselves or others. And they actually, they don't own the car outright, and they might have $1,000 in their bank account for all you know, versus someone that might have a much shittier car, like maybe a $5,000 car, but has $70,000 in their bank account. This is a very real thing. I'm not generalizing, saying this is all circumstances, but what I am saying is you don't know what people have based on looking externally, or you should never make assumptions, is what I'm trying to say. I am not a very materialistic person. I don't buy designer bags, designer clothes, fancy cars, things like that. And yet I have a lot of cash in the bank, and I have, a very, big portfolio for my age and my circumstances and all of those sorts of things, right? And my point is you would never know that looking externally, because I'm not interested in materialistic things, versus someone that might be, again, this is a complete generalization, might not actually have any money, even though externally they look like they do. So I find that very fascinating, that you should never assume that people can't afford it just because that might be one person's experience or someone's experience. So don't assume, act as normal. Yes, we'll tweak and adjust accordingly, and I'll get into that in a moment. But at the moment, I don't want you to start playing small or lowering your prices based on an assumption that people will not pay or cannot pay, right? So that is the first thing. The other example I want to give you is a personal example. So if you're in Australia, I'm sure you know Qantas. It's an airline, Australian airline. I pay for the business Qantas lounge. It's not very expensive to me, and I think it's worth it to, be able to work in a quiet environment when I go to the airport, as I travel kind of frequently. And it's very funny because I'm often, in workout gear, or maybe not dressed up, or I don't go in with a big fancy business suit and my little suitcase like some other people that go into the lounge do. What I often find happen is the people at the front desk at Qantas often, not always, often assume that I must be on a guest pass, or I wouldn't have a membership, or I'm not meant to be there. They kind of look me up and down, or they literally straight out might assume, before I've even been able to say hello or anything, they say, "Do you have your guest pass on you to be able to come in today?" That's literally what they'll say to me. And it's very funny to then be like, no, but I have my membership, here you go. And I just find it so interesting that they assume there is a chance that I make more money than most people in there potentially, and they assume just based on, whether it's that I look young or look different or not dressed up enough for them or whatever it is they assume, but assuming is a mistake. So there's some examples that I wanted to give you there. So we don't want to lower our prices and just play small based on assumptions. Sure, we may need to make some tweaks potentially, depending on how, difficult things get, potentially. But until the data actually shows that, and we know that that is 100% the root cause of what's going on here, that is not the decision we should be making right now, okay? Because here's the thing, is that what actually happens in uncertain times is not that people stop spending, it's that people just become more selective about what they spend their money on. So instead of lowering your prices, what you actually need to do right now is increase your clarity, clearer messaging, a clearer problem, a clearer result, clearer positioning. In uncertain times, people don't buy the cheapest option. They actually buy the safest one. And you drastically changing everything doesn't make it a safe decision, okay? So that is mistake number one. Mistake number two that I want to speak about when the economy is not in the greatest of situations is going quiet and waiting for a better time. I see this all the time. People, start to say, oh, it's not the right time, or I've got this personal thing going on, or I'm going on holiday, or I've got this circumstance going on, or, oh, the economy isn't great right now. I'm going to wait for a better time. And this is a big mistake because they pull back, they post less, they stop selling, they're waiting for the right time, which, by the way, I don't even know what that means. And they tell themselves that they will be more visible when the economy is better. But here's the thing, there is no right time, there is no perfect time, and there never has been. And in times like this, when many people are pulling back and getting quieter, if you simply keep showing up, you remain consistent as usual, you will actually stand out and make more money because your competition will start to disappear. Because the reality is, I'm going to say this, but most people, if I know how the human brain is wired, really, really struggle with uncertainty, which is why most people can't be an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur requires the ability to be able to hold a lot of uncertainty. It is very uncertain. By the way, so is having a 9-to-5 job. It's just masked as a more certain thing, but it's definitely not. You could lose your job tomorrow. So it requires your ability to handle uncertainty. And I really believe there is a direct correlation with someone's success and their ability to navigate uncertainty. It's going to continue to happen in life. And so what's really important is that we remain consistent, because I know how human beings work, and a lot of people are going to pull back now based on these assumptions, based on fear, based on their inability to hold the uncertainty that is and will continue to happen. So if you're looking for a right time and a perfect time, I'm sorry, but you're going to be waiting a very long time, because I don't even know what that means. You don't know whether this economy situation is going to go on for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years, 10 years, we do not know. What I do know for sure is that everything is always changing. Everything in life is always changing. The sun is moving right now, the clouds are moving, there is always going to be a sunset, there's always going to be a sunrise. If you ever expect something to stay the same, you are set up for a disaster, because there will always be seasons in life. There are seasons, obviously, throughout the year as well. Like, everything is always changing. And so to try and have something stay the same is just a recipe for disaster. So most people are going to start to pull back now. This is actually your time to double down and lean in, okay? If anything, the right time is always now. And even so, in these situations, because like I said, so many people pull back, it's your opportunity to double down. And I want to give another example, because I personally learned so much from examples. If you look at the stock market and really wealthy people that have become multimillionaires and even billionaires, for the most part, they actually become that in times like this, because when everyone else is selling their shares and backing out and wanting to hold on to their wealth, those wealthy people, they actually double down, they invest more, or they lean in as per usual, because they're not ever believing that there's a right time, they're just consistently investing. This is people with that long-term investing approach, by the way, because typically what happens during these times is the stock market goes down, right? And so it's cheaper to buy shares. And so if you buy now knowing it will go up, because guess what? It always goes back up, it always eventually recovers, especially with the S&P 500 and all that sort of stuff, it will go back up, and then you are making a killing all of a sudden. And really wealthy people with an educated mindset around investing, they know that. They absolutely know that. And so if anything, now is an even better time than ever before. And personally, I can't wait to invest in more shares during this time. I want to capitalize on this time, because I know, just like if you look at this, like the test of time with the stock market, it always goes back up. And long term, term, it is going back up. This is a little blip, and it continues to happen like this. Like everything from COVID absolutely recovered after, in terms of the stock market and things like that. And the same thing is going to continue now. So there is never a right time, other than right now, regardless. So I want you to lean in, because most people won't, and this is your opportunity to shine. And also, I'm obviously speaking strictly to online coaches and service providers right now. Guys, if there's anything that is sure, it's that the online world sparks up during these times, and so you also have another advantage there as well. So that is something that I really want to share, is that you want to become more visible and not less during this time, and actually really start to lean in more. Okay, mistake number 3 is not having a repeatable system. I actually can't stress this one enough. This is a big one. A lot of coaches are still relying on random posts, random motivation, random launches, word of mouth and referrals, instead of having a repeatable system that they can actually feel certain in and trust and lean in on consistently to attract, nurture, and convert clients on repeat. Okay. And I want to say this like really, really clearly, because it is very uncomfortable to not have a system. Referrals and things like that tend to go down in times like this. And if you don't have a system that brings in people, then you are going to really struggle. So it is very expensive and costly for you to not have a repeatable system to grow your business, because the cost of living is increasing. The cost of everything is increasing, right? So by the way, your prices also need to increase eventually. And, the market will get noisier, and AI is changing the landscape. There's a lot of changes going on. And if you don't stay ahead, stay on top, stay educated, and know how to move during this time, and have a repeatable system that actually works in all seasons, no matter what the economy is doing, then you are going to go down. And that is just the very direct reality, okay? It's very expensive to not know what you're doing business-wise, systems-wise, AI-wise. There are more coaches, more content, more noise, more competition for attention. And if you do not know how to stand out during all of that, paired with, any uncertainties with the economy, you are going to fall behind. So if you do not have a predictable way to get clients, a predictable way to nurture your audience, and to sell, your business will feel harder and harder over time, okay? And that's just me being completely honest with you all. The longer you don't know how to consistently get clients, the more it actually costs you. So you may have been in a period recently where, look, you're a little bit stuck sometimes, you do find it a little bit frustrating and hard that you don't know how to grow your business all the time, and, things have been feeling a little bit inconsistent. Well, during economic changes, that only will enhance and feel even worse, because the cost of living has now gone up, but your income hasn't. So you actually need to know how to increase your income during this time, because you actually need to make more to get by or have the same quality of lifestyle that you had prior to this happening. So it's actually more urgent and necessary before that you have business mentorship and support to be able to grow, because the longer you don't know how to sell, the longer you stay stuck at the same income level while your expenses keep on increasing, and that gap will become more and more painful. So you might be thinking, oh, it's not the right time now. Actually, the right time was genuinely yesterday, because it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get harder. And I just mean that from a place of complete honesty in wanting to actually help you. So you need to know how to get clients. You need to know how to market and communicate during this time. And you also need to know how to be educated and aware and mindful and respectful of people's situations. And it's a bit of a numbers game of both quantity and quality during this time as well, for how you show up and the leads you bring in and all of this sort of thing. So you do need support. You do not want to be trying to figure this out alone if you were only just barely getting by up until now. So if you've got support, double down on it. If you don't have support, what are you doing? Go get support immediately. If you would like my help, I help online coaches to start, to grow, to scale in a really spacious and sustainable way. You can book a roadmap call by clicking the link below, and we can have a chat. There'll be no pressure attached whatsoever. It's just genuinely to see if it's the right fit for both of us, if I can even help you, and if the investment and the circumstances all align, then would love to support you, of course. But definitely don't attempt to figure this out alone during such a time. It's going to cost you a lot more than you realize. Personally, I'm about to make my biggest investment ever in business, and I'm going to continue to do so regardless of what is going on. I've had a coach every single day I've been in business, and I'm going to continue to do so because it matters. Now, mistake number 4 out of 5 is making emotional decisions instead of strategic ones. In uncertain times, people panic and change everything. They change their niche, they change their offer, they drop their prices, they create new offers, and they change their content, and they end up confusing their audience and not to mention themselves as well. And it's done so from a place of scarcity and fear often, when there's a lot of drastic changes going on. And instead of making emotional changes, what we want to do is make strategic adjustments, because when you change everything, even when the economy is in a great place, there's still this period of figuring out what works, this lull period, and to build it up. And when you change multiple variables at once, you actually don't know which piece is working versus not working. It's all going to feel like it's not working. And when you feel that way, you're going to make emotional decisions rather than having the data, making tiny tweaks and adjustments instead of drastic changes. Then you'll actually know what's going on and can make the right, logical, strategic decisions for your business, which is very, very important. I used to change everything all the time, and it was because I was being emotional about it, and then things wouldn't work and I wouldn't understand what part wasn't working, and it ended up just me going in circles and being a much bigger problem than it needed to be. So now I'm really big on tracking all of the data points in my business and making logical decisions, okay? So we don't want to ignore what is going on. I'm not saying don't make any changes under any circumstances. We just want to make strategic ones based on the data. So you need to be tracking the data. We track everything in our business, and it has been really, really helpful for making the right decisions instead of the reactive decisions. Okay, so we want to focus on urgent, real problems and just continue to be consistent with the things that we know work. This is why having a solid plan and strategy is so important. And then that's going to allow us to build more safety within ourselves and within our business, and that's going to feel more safe for other people to buy. And then the 5th mistake that I see is thinking that the industry is too saturated. So your industry might be saturated. Now, by the way, I just want to give some context here. I know I just said people pull out during times like this, but I hear a lot of comments of like, my industry is too saturated, the top dogs are gonna, get ahead and I'm gonna fall behind and all of these things. But most people do slow down or give up. And if you're just more consistent and you're in business for the long run, you'll be completely fine. And yes, your industry may be a little bit saturated, but it is not competitive. So I want to speak into this because yes, you may have a lot of people in your niche. Yes, you may have some people in, ahead of you in business. But the thing is that it is not a competitive industry because most people will quit. And this is the reality, is like most people will disappear the moment it gets hard. And right now it's getting hard and it's only getting harder. Most people will get scared and go quiet. So the real question is there too much competition? That is not the right question. The real question is, can you stay consistent? Can you keep going during this time? Because that will determine your success in this space, right? Can you stay visible, consistent, and in the game while others remove themselves? Because unfortunately they will, because most people can't unhandle challenging times. Because if you can handle the uncertain times and keep showing up, you're not just going to survive these seasons, you're actually going to thrive on the other side of this, and you're going to thank yourself. So I'm really glad that during COVID, whether it was naivety, lack of awareness or education, whatever it was, I think it was just that I honestly really wanted to help people and I really wanted to make a difference. Because I did so, I'm still standing in business today. I leaned in when most people leaned out. I watched a lot of people go out of business. I was in a saturated market of mindset coaching, and yet my business started and grew and thrived during that time because I just kept leaning in. I was excited, I was passionate, I was giving stuff away for free in terms of events and challenges and helping people and leaning in and doing the work required, and it meant that my business grew and I built a lot of trust during that time, and the same can be possible for you. So you will actually outrun a lot of people in these seasons if you just keep leaning in. So it's so important to have the support in your business to help regulate you and ground you and help you navigate yourself and your business during these times so that you can continue to lean in and show up and get results. Now, I want to say one last thing before we wrap up, and I really hope that this episode has come across in the right light because that is the intention, and I really hope that there is at least one takeaway that aligns with you that you want to apply to your business. And that is, I just want you to know that right now, if you do not have a repeatable system to get clients, you're going to find this time quite challenging. If you don't have consistent leads right now, if you don't have a clear way to sell right now, that's only going to get harder in these challenging times if you do not learn how to do it right now, because the results that you get are often from the work that you did 6 to 12 weeks prior, right? So if you started this year kind of slow, school holidays, Christmas, going away, whatever it might be, if you started the year that way, you're probably taking more of a hit on that actually around about now. And that's just going to continue to amplify itself if you don't build a repeatable system, if you do not lean in. It doesn't matter what is going on in the world. I am going to be, or even in my personal life, I am posting 5 days a week. I am running, online events every 2 weeks. I am running Facebook ads every day. Like, I'm going to continue to do these things. I'm going to continue to have conversations with leads. I'm going to continue to pay my team. I'm going to continue to lean in and do all of these things. I'm actually going to capitalize on the fact that I know a lot of people are going to slow down now, and I'm going to lean in even more. That is what I'm going to be doing, and that is what I recommend that you do as well. Because if you don't know how to do this right now, if you don't have a system in place, you don't have support in place, you are going to really struggle in a couple of months' time, if you don't get a grip on it right now, okay? So the worst thing you could do is wait or back away or wait for this to blow over, because you don't know how long it's going to be. So the longer you stay stuck, the longer you stay in the same income or worse, while the cost of living will actually increase, okay? So if you are ready to take your business seriously, if you're ready to lean in during this time instead of lean out and be those 1%ers who actually, make it in business long term, then I really do want to invite you to click the link to book a call with me. I very rarely promote this. I very rarely suggest this on these episodes. I like to keep them sort of promotion free and just really help you, but I'm being serious here. If you don't have the right kind of support, this is your genuine invitation to do something about it right now. And I would like to invite you to book a call with me. There is no pressure. I don't make people purchase on the call. I don't just sit there and try and handle your objections. You either want to work with me or you don't, and that is entirely up to you, to be honest with you. So I want to invite you to book a call if you are serious or even remotely curious about what it could be like to work together. You can just click that link below and book in a time. Come message me on Instagram. I'm at Sophia Rose Bernardi, also linked below, and we can just have a chat, because I really want to help people during this time. It doesn't need to be the end of everything if you just have a plan in place, okay? Prevention is better than cure. So let's get a grip on this now, because we don't know what we're in for, to be honest with you. So to wrap up this all in a nice little bow, yes, the economy is unpredictable. Yes, what the government does is unpredictable. Yes, we do not know what's going to happen and there's a lot of uncertainty, but that doesn't mean your income has to be unpredictable. When you have a repeatable, predictable system that works, that you're implementing, and you're making data-based, logical, strategic decisions when necessary during the season, you'll be just fine. Okay, so a coach with a clear message, a solid offer, a system that works, and the courage to keep showing up and selling during some really uncertain times, and actually recognize people need help more than ever before during these times. These are the people that are going to stay on top, because that is the game we're playing. That is the game of entrepreneurship. You've got to get creative and you've got to lean in. And one last thing I'll say, before you jump to conclusions of like, oh, this works for business coaches or this works for coaches that are talking about money. No, problems don't just disappear because the economy has changed. If anything, it all amplifies. If you're a relationship coach, often relationship challenges appear or rise to the surface even more right now, because money usually can cause problems for couples and things like that. So when people are stressed and uncertain, that can seep into relationships. And do you know what's more expensive than a relationship coach? A divorce. So your services are actually needed right now if you're a relationship coach. If you are a health coach, stress does not show well on the body. And when people are now eating cheaper food or, have a lack of certain resources or whatever it might be, that impacts people's health, or people that just seriously care about their health or are unhappy with their body. Just because there's economic struggles going out in the world for some people doesn't mean people's health goals and health priorities and health warning signs just disappear all of a sudden. So you are still very much needed, same as a business coach, or any coach in the money or financial space. If anything, it becomes more urgent that you are needed. So it doesn't matter whether you are in the health space, the people space, the mindset space. People's problems just amplify during times like this. When we are an online service-based business, it is our job to lean in and help people because people need it more than ever before. So lean in and let go, and let's make the right decisions that are actually going to support your growth, and we will go from there. I hope this has been a really helpful episode for you, and I'll speak to you all very soon.